All right, so today's lesson is on empirical formula and molecular formula. And so empirical formula is a new term, and so we're going to start off by discussing it and make sure that you have a good understanding of what we mean when we use the term empirical formula. So I'm going to start out with a quick question. And so I have two formulas here, two chemical formulas, okay, CH2O here and C6H12O6. So my question to you, and I want you to think about this, are these the same molecules? Okay, is this molecule the same thing as this? And what is leading you to believe what you believe? So take a minute to think about it. And when you're ready, resume the video. And we'll see how you did. All right, so let's start to talk about this. When I look at these, I can see that, well, they certainly have a few things in common. When I'm looking at the ratio of carbon to hydrogen to oxygen in each of them, well, I can see that I have my formula on the left, which has a carbon to hydrogen to oxygen ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. And I can see that my formula on the right has a ratio that is 6 to 12 to 6 of carbon to hydrogen to oxygen, which I know I can reduce to lowest terms. And when I do that, I get 1 to 2 to 1. And so one thing that certainly they have in common is the fact that they both have this 1 to 2 to 1 ratio in common. But are they the same molecules? Well, as it turns out, they are not the same formula. If I were to draw a Lewis structure of the formula on the right, then I would end up with something that looks like this. And if I were to draw the Lewis structure of the structure on the left, it would look like this. So the one on the right, by the way, just as an FYI, is formaldehyde. Let me see if I can spell that. Formaldehyde. And the formula on the left is something that you're also very familiar with, though you may not know it. It is glucose, this big thing. And if you take grade 12 biology, you'll become very comfortable with the shape and structure of that molecule. So if you answered that no, they are indeed not the same molecules, then you're correct. When I describe CH2O as a molecular formula, then I'm talking about each individual particle, each piece, each chunk, having exactly 1 carbon, 1 oxygen, and 2 hydrogens. Whereas if I'm talking about the molecule on the right, my glucose molecule, 1 complete chunk or piece of it, 1 main component, if I look at the smallest individual piece, then I would see that it has exactly 6 carbons. Here they are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 hydrogens, we can count them up, and 6 oxygens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? So these are not the same molecules. They would have very different boiling points, melting points, physical and chemical properties. So even though the ratio of carbon to hydrogen to oxygen is the same, these are different molecules. And so we would say that the first formula is what we can refer to as being the simple formula or the empirical formula of the second one. Which is, well, so then what the heck must an empirical formula be? So an empirical formula is a formula that is in lowest terms. It gives us the simplest whole number ratio of a molecule. Okay, so in other words, we're looking at the formula for a molecule in lowest terms. Right, which is why we can say that CH2O would be an empirical formula that could be representing our glucose molecule. And so before we move on, I just want to talk about formulas in general. So something that's really, I'm going to start with a really familiar formula, one that you should have been aware of from quite some time ago, and that is this guy. So this is water, H2O. And so in grade 9 and then in grade 10, we probably would have talked about how the fact that it says this 2 is there has to do with the fact that I have 2 atoms of H for every 1 oxygen atom, right? And so, and then in grade 11, we started talking about, and even in grade 10 actually for that matter, we would take this structure and we would draw it out, and we would see that those two H atoms combine with one oxygen atom to give us this nice structure of water, and we can see the molecular structure of water. But now we're at the grade 11 level, a little bit further in, and so we can talk about this H2O molecule in different terms, or simply that formula in and of itself in different terms. Now we know about the mole, so that we can also say that this formula is a ratio that we can understand in terms of moles. So in other words, this formula implies that there must be 2 moles of hydrogen for every 1 mole of water molecule. There must be 1 mole of oxygen for every 1 mole of water molecules. And so there's a ratio that's implied here, not only in terms of atoms, but in terms of moles that we need to consider. So that's just a point that we need to remember moving forward. So now I think we're ready to practice a problem involving empirical formula. All right, so let's read out our first problem here. So it says here that Avogadro burned some sulfur, and you need to know that whenever you're burning any element, you're reacting it with what? Well, with oxygen, right? Oxygen is required when you're burning anything, when you're combusting a material. So Avogadro's burning some sulfur, and he realizes that the resulting product is 50% sulfur and 50% oxygen. What is the empirical formula for his product? All right, so, well, let's start by, immediately students think this is a simple problem. I have 50% oxygen and 50% sulfur, so the formula must be 1s for every 1 O, right? 50-50. But if you think this, then you've made a pretty fundamental mistake in chemistry, which is that you've forgotten that the mass of sulfur is different than the mass of oxygen. Each sulfur atom has a mass of around 32 grams per mole, whereas oxygen has a molar mass of around 16 grams for every mole, right? So we need to somehow take those differences in masses into account when we're trying to figure out the empirical formula for a substance. Okay, which by the way is pretty important. If you are a scientist and you're trying to discover what product you've made in a lab, one of the first steps may very well be to try and determine the empirical formula, the simplest whole number ratio of the atoms. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to assume that you have 100 grams of product. And I'm going to tell you why, if you're given percentages. Okay, so in percentages, we know all percentages are written out of 100, right? That's what a percent is. So if we assume we have 100 grams of product, that just makes the numbers really simple to work with. So that if I say, well, I have 100 grams of product and 50% of it is oxygen, then I know that the mass of oxygen, I can assume mass of O to be 50 grams. And the same goes for my sulfur. The mass of sulfur is also going to be 50 grams. So that's the first thing I want to do. Now, of course, this is a step that you can skip. If in the original question they give you mass values straight away, you don't have to worry about assuming that you have 100 grams of product. So the next thing you're going to do is, remember we talked about formulas being really just mole ratios of moles? Well, if we're going to figure out the formula, we're going to need to know how many moles of each element we have in order to form a mole ratio. Okay, so you'll remember the formula. Well, oopsies. Let me get to my pen function here, that the number of moles is equal to my mass divided by my molar mass. And so if I'm looking for the number of moles of sulfur, I'm going to put a little s, subscript s there, then the mass was 50 grams. And I'm going to divide that by the molar mass of sulfur, which I believe is 32.00 grams per mole. I'm going to leave the units out just to keep this a little tidier. And I'm going to grab my trusty periodic table to double check that. Okay, well, it's not 32.00. Really glad I checked. It's 32.07 on the periodic table that I'm looking at. And so let's just work that out. So I'm going to ignore sig figs for this question. Normally I wouldn't because they should be measurements, but I'm going to kind of do that just to preserve some of the data here. So I'm getting, 1.6 moles roughly. I'm going to go 1.559. And, I'm going to say that I have extra digits here, extra digits. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for oxygen. You go ahead and do the same thing and then resume when you're ready to check your answer. All right, so I've carried some extra digits. I've reminded myself that I need to include units here, which I forgot in the last step. And I've got my number of moles of both oxygen and sulfur. All right, we're ready to move on to our next step. And so my next step is to determine the ratio of elements using the number of moles. Well, I really want to know, if I want the formula, I need to know, well, what are the subscripts that go beside the formula? So I really want to know, well, what is the little number down here, and then my O, and what is the little number down here? So really, I want to know what the ratio is of S to O. That's really what I want to know, because that will help me figure out what these little numbers are that I've kind of left little squigglies for. So what I know right now is that I have approximately 1.5 It's 1.559. I'm going to write that out. 1.559 moles of sulfur for that let me get that number again, 3.125 moles of oxygen. Well, I can't use those numbers as my numbers that go right here because we don't have like decimals as in formulas. We need a whole number ratio. So this is actually a really good trick, a mathematical trick. It's not really a trick, but that you can use to take any ratio and try to get it into some kind of whole number ratio. And so you may want to write yourself a little note on the side about what I'm doing here. You divide by the lowest of the two, or 2 or 3 or 4, divide by the lowest number in the ratio. Divide both parts of the ratio. So between 1.559 and 3.125, 1.559 is the lower. So I'm going to divide both sides of this ratio by the lower of the numbers in the ratio. And so when I work that out, well, of course, on the left here, I'm going to have 1 to some other value. And that gives me a really good comparison. So if I take 3.125 and divide it by 1.559, I am getting roughly 2.00. And that is within the realm of error to say that that really means the formula or the ratio is 1 to 2. We're going to talk about when it is that, it's not close enough. But 2.00 to two decimal places is really just 2, right? And I need whole number ratios, so that's a pretty good estimate. We're almost done this question, by the way. So last but not least, I'm going to write out the formula as per this whole number ratio. So remember, I ended up figuring out that my ratio of S to O was 1 to 2. That means for every one S I have in my formula, I have to have 2 O's. And so this is my empirical formula. Therefore, SO2 is the empirical formula. Yay! Hopefully that wasn't too bad. We're going to move on to another question.